Well, good afternoon, everybody. I think it's about time to get started, so we have time to meet with our legislators and have discussions. So I'm gonna go ahead and get us started here. I want to welcome everybody to Commonwealth North Presents Legislative Agenda 2022. This is our 15th time we've had this meeting, so I want to welcome everybody here today. Last year we did this program via Zoom, and this year we're doing it in person. I can tell you it's a much better experience doing it in person. Let's hope it stays that way. So thank you all for attending here as yourselves rather than on some kind of TV screen. So this event has become a signature event for Commonwealth North. We bring together legislators, our members, and other Alaskans for unscripted and open discussions. I want to thank all of you for being here today. Your participation is vital to your voice being heard by our legislators, and it's an opportunity for us all to gain insights into next year's legislative session. Today's program is not a political debate. It's not a cross-examination. It's not a gotcha. This is just an opportunity to discuss key issues with well-informed and thoughtful Alaskans. Before we begin, I want to thank our event sponsors, ConocoPhillips Alaska, Northern Bank, and the Alaska Chiropractic Society. So thank you, guys. It's the support of businesses and members like these that enable us to fulfill our mission by bringing Alaskans together to eliminate our state's most critical issues. Now I'm going to get to the most difficult part of our program today. I'm going to introduce all the legislators. When I ask your name, I appreciate if you could stand up. But here's the difficult part. Please don't applaud for them until we get to the end so we can get through this in a fairly expeditious manner. So we'll see if you can pass the test. I've never seen a crowd be able to do this. So first is Senator Mia Costello, Representative Bryce Edgman, Representative Zach Fields, Representative Ron Gillum, Senator Shelley Hughes, Representative Delana Johnson, Representative Andy Josephson, Representative James Kaufman, Representative Kevin McCabe, Representative Tom McKay. And Tom, continue standing, please. I meant to say that. Continue standing so I've got a chance to see who's here. Peter Micciche, Senate President Peter Micciche, Representative Josiah Patkatak, Representative George Rauscher, Representative Calvin Schrage, Representative Ivy Sponholz, Speaker Louise Stutes, Representative Garen Tarr, Representative Kathy Tilton, Senator Natasha von Himhoff, and Senator Bill Wielechowski. So thank you. Thank you all for your service. A little bit about Commonwealth North. Commonwealth North's origin story begins with our state's first two governors, Bill Egan and Wally Hickel, and their hopes that we could work together in a nonpartisan policy forum to better understand the most complex issues impacting our state. Today, we continue that legacy, examining Arctic policy, energy, fiscal policy, and healthcare reform, as well as monthly programs to explore emerging topics. Our mission is to educate Alaskans about the critical policy issues facing our state and to identify effective solutions. We fill a unique niche by connecting Alaskans with policymakers for open discussions and thoughtful, deliberative development of public policy. Our work is made possible by the participation and support of our members. For those of you who are not members, we welcome you to join Commonwealth North. At this time, I'd like to invite Senator President Peter Micciche and Speaker of the House, Louise Stutes, and my co-moderator, Tom Hewitt, to join me on stage. And the steps are right over here. So this next part of our program, we're going to have a conversation with these two leaders in our legislature about some of the high-level issues that the legislature is going to have to tackle this year. Probably not a surprise to everybody, but it's probably something that you might want to talk about at your tables. So we're going to get this over with here, and then we'll give you a chance to talk about some other issues if you'd like to. So let me first introduce our two legislative leaders. So anyway, I'll finish my introduction of Senator Micciche. He served in the Senate representing District O since 2013. He has a long record of public service and volunteerism, including local government and numerous service organizations. Peter worked for many years in the energy sector and as a commercial fisherman. He was elected Senate President in 2021. I've known Peter personally for about the last 20 years and had the privilege of working with him on the Kenai Peninsula, some Kenai Peninsula projects when he was not working as a legislator. Next is Speaker of the House, Louise Stutes. Louise was elected to the House of Representatives in 2015, representing House District 32 on Kodiak Island. She has served as Speaker of the House since 2021. She too has a long record of public service and volunteerism, and she's also a retired business owner. Tom Hewitt is the opinion editor for the Anchorage Daily News. He was born and raised in Interior Alaska, where he studied journalism at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. He has worked as a local government and politics reporter, opinion editor at the Fairbanks Daily News Miner, and news director at Fairbanks' 2 local TV stations. In 2018, he came to Anchorage to work at the ADN, and since then, he's written the paper's editorials, edited its commentaries, and taken in its letters to the editor. We missed the opportunity last year to have Senator Micciche and Speaker Stutes with us today, so it's a pleasure to have you with us today in person. So now we'll go ahead and get started with the program. So I'll move over here, and Tom, you want to get us launched here with the first question to our legislative leaders?
I was saying, challenging budget climate and diminished savings, and also an election year in 2022. What's, in your opinion, in store for the budget this coming year, and how easy or difficult will it be to accomplish given the multiple pressures on the legislature?
Myself?
You can rock, paper, scissors for it.
Okay, there we go. I think that one of the focal points again is going to be a sustainable fiscal plan, whatever that might be, and however complete it might be. But I think that we need to start with working on components that will address a sustainable fiscal plan, including the PFD. I think it's, I'm very optimistic. I don't know that we'll get the complete plan done, but I'm very optimistic in getting at least some of the components done, and I'm optimistic insofar as working together as a unit with all of our House members.
Yeah, so it's going to come down to this as far as I see it. It depends on how important it is to individual legislators, right? It depends on how important it is to the administration. So when we get these big pieces of legislation across the finish line, all 3 bodies are working together. We haven't seen a lot of that. We work together fairly well. We have split caucuses. We have factions within caucuses. Most of my team is here today, but I think the way that I explain it to people is how much of a priority it is and how flexible people are going to be to try to hear what the other folks are saying, try to come together on a plan. So if I got a call today that one of my daughters was a hostage, it would become a top priority for me to solve that situation. If someone would call and tell me that perhaps my wife's cat was a hostage, it wouldn't be nearly as important. And the reason I bring that up, if it is a top priority of legislators to get this solved, they're going to find a way to compromise to get these bills across the finish line, get the components in play, and solve this problem. In the meantime, I've just recently came back from a trip, actually 2 trips. The lower 48 is booming with dollars that are flowing in relatively stable economies. And Alaska has been struggling with inactivity for years because of the uncertainty of our fiscal situation. So it's imperative. It's a top priority for me. A lot of my team is here. I think it's a top priority for one of each of them. And I hope that we can come together and listen to each other and figure out a way to get something across the finish line, or the #1 campaign issue next year should be, why in the bloody hell have you been unable to get anything done?
Yeah. So, the issue that seems to just suck all the air out of the room, more so than oil taxes, has been PFD, the whole debate around the PFD. Is there anything that's going to happen this year that's going to bring the legislature together so we can get a solution to that? It seems like the sides are so polarized, and we're going to have a little more breathing room this year, more money. So the pressure is off a little bit on the money side. You got redistricting that shows uncertainties, election coming up. It seems like we got to solve that first before almost anything else is going to fall into place. Do you agree with that? Do you think there's any reason to be more optimistic this year than last year?
So do we want to go back and forth on who goes
Go ahead.
first? Okay. Obviously, it's all dependent on a PFD solution, but it goes so much deeper than that. There's so many different groups, even in our Senate. So we have a 14-member majority, but I'm the president of a Senate that has 20 members in it. And you have some of the just different groups for you to consider are what that fiscal plan looks like, and if the PFD has bridge funding. Others want broad-based revenue. Some are status quo folks. They're kind of happy with the annual battle, which we know just simply doesn't work. So it just depends on if those different groups are going to be able to come together and say, okay, this is not my preferred method, but if perhaps you can lean my way on a spending limit, maybe I can lean your way on low, broad, and temporary broad-based taxes, or I can lean your way on a step-up plan to a 50-50 if that's the way we go, if you can kind of work with me on this other component that's imperative for a successful fiscal plan. And that's really what it's going to come down to. Are people going to be somewhat flexible? And I often say this, I've got the perfect plan. I had it years ago. It's those pesky 59 other legislators that get in my way all the time. So if you hold the rest of them in high regard, we should be able to pull this together. It's not going to be anything that any one legislator would lay on the table as the perfect plan, but they have to recognize to get to 11 and 21 or 14 and 27, they are going to have to be somewhat flexible to get there.
And I would agree, and I would could almost answer that with one word, and that's compromise. That's what it's going to take. It's like the senator, we have a very diverse caucus. We have a caucus of only 21, and so it's difficult. We have differing opinions. We have, and that's what it's going to take. We have, just like you do, people that want a full PFD and all the back pay to people that want very minimum PFDs. And it's going to take all of us working together with the Senate to get anything done. And it's all about compromise.
Okay.
One of the measures that's been talked about as far as helping close that budget gap is, revenue measures, specifically individual taxes. And the last time that Alaska had the individual taxes was 1980 when it was repealed. I was born in 1983. Scott got here in 1982. So even as some pretty long tenured Alaskans, we've never known in Alaska where there have been individual taxes. How much does that affect the discussion of revenue measures like taxes, both within the legislature and when you're talking to folks who have lived here a long time and have never known in Alaska where that was a reality?
Well, a lot of people, and I bring this up a lot of people are not cognizant of the fact that Alaska is the only state out of 50 that has no state tax of any kind. Every other state, all 49 states, have some sort of tax, whether it be an income tax or a state sales tax or whatever it might be. It comes into our conversation quite regularly, but once again, we have a split caucus and we have people that say, we don't need a tax. We need to live within what we have. And other people are saying, well, we need a tax because we want a bigger PFD. Well, is that a good reason? I'm not taking either side, but is that a good reason? I think that if you're going to have some kind of broad-based tax, you have to be able to explain to the public where that tax money is going. And it would seem to me that looking around, infrastructure is a huge component of where we need to put some money. So again, I don't have a definitive answer to that, unfortunately.
So I recently went to a Senate President's Forum. It was in Boston, and they had some curiosity about the PFD and why this blessed state with so many resources and so much money and savings was struggling or politically with a solution. And I said, you know, when our session ended, I wish I would have been the Senate President for Idaho, who has a sales tax and an income tax. And I said, I wish I could have said, well, I've got this is what happened this year. We eliminated your sales tax. We eliminated your income tax. And we're sending each Alaskan $1,114. In Idaho, I would be like the king of Idaho forever. There would be bronze statues in every town square of this guy that eliminated these broad-based taxes. In Alaska, you're lining your pockets with their PFD, and so it's imperative that we solve the PFD issue. It's imperative. Now, how do we get there? That's going to be the difficulty because people are all over the place. And some of the folks that are called rhinos refuse to tax Alaskans for a higher PFD. And some of the folks that are called other things are willing to do that because in their districts, the PFD is the most important thing. And I think all of our folks are trying to represent their districts well. That's how this job works, right? So how do we bring all those folks together? How do we make that work? I'll talk about the flexibility, or the word that Louise used, the speaker used, compromise. Everybody's going to have to come over somewhat in order for that to work. And if there is a broad-based tax, if that's where the majority of these groups go, I hope it's low, broad, and temporary. We know how the math works over time. The fund is growing faster than our spending, especially if we are able to, and there are Democrats in the Senate that support a more effective spending limit. And why is that? Because that helps the math work over time. If you grow your government slower than you're growing your permanent fund, whenever that time period is, and however you go with either a step up or right to a specific size PFD, over time the math improves. So whether or not a broad-based tax becomes part of it is really dependent on how flexible people can be to come together on a plan.
Well, thanks. I think you guys have confirmed what we knew. This is a Gordian knot, and it's gonna be really hard to undo. But you still can't hear me. Dan, okay, let's try again.
You're picking up.
Is that better?
Yeah.
All right.
Put it on your shirt collar.
Okay. Give instructions here. I'll just hold it like that. Is that better?
There we go.
Okay. I'm going to change the topic here just a little bit. Speaker Stutes mentioned infrastructure. You know, in the infrastructure bill, Alaska is probably going to get somewhere between $5 and $7 billion, maybe $8 billion. At least we're going to be eligible to receive that much money. And some of it's going to be grant money. Some of it's going to be formula driven. Some of it's going to be matching funds. But we got 5 years. And with all this money coming into the state, we need to be prepared to have a plan on how we're going to spend it. So as legislative leaders, you may not have really had much time to think about this yet, but what can you do to make sure that we streamline the processes, that we get the management in place to make sure that we can maximize benefits to Alaskans under this infrastructure bill? You know, if we don't act quickly, we'll spend 5 years planning it, and then we'll be out of time. We'll leave a lot of money on the table. So I just want to open it up to you all just to give us your thoughts on how we can best manage this process, make sure we can maximize our benefits.
Can't remember who was first last time.
Go ahead.
I think that you guys should be managing that.
Okay.
I think,
Go ahead, Senate President.
I think when I ask the questions, Madam
Yeah.
Speaker has answered first,
Yeah.
so it's on me now.
Okay, that's perfect. So and we don't know all the details. We don't know what proportion we'll be appropriating. We don't know what the requirements are going to be as far as shovel ready and that sort of thing. But you bring up an excellent point. We have deferred maintenance needs, and we have infrastructure needs in the state of Alaska that are substantial. We're an infant state. We haven't built anything significant in a very long time when it comes to roads and significant infrastructure. We definitely have bridge and road and transportation facility needs. We know that some's going to be earmarked for the marine highway system. We know some's going to be earmarked for broadband. We are going to have to put our minds together quickly on not only existing lists, which could likely be somewhat satisfied by that level of investment, but a longer term plan for the next 5 years of what those needs may look like. And I don't think we have any idea really what that looks like at this point. I think that's going to be a concerted effort from our team and the finance teams to try to determine what will grow Alaska with that. First of all, what will repair what's existing in Alaska, and then what will grow Alaska with that level of investment.
And we certainly expect our finance committee to be heavily involved in watching and overseeing these funds and seeing that they're utilized in an effective, efficient way. And that doesn't mean replacing general fund dollars with federal dollars. These dollars need to augment state dollars and not replace state dollars with a one-time funding. So we expect that our finance committee will be actively involved in overseeing how these funds are distributed and spent.
Yeah, as I've thought about this, one thing to maybe think about is maybe what you need is a group of folks who operate to manage the process. Now, obviously, the legislature has to appropriate funds for matching funds and those sorts of things, but somebody has to keep track of what's available, what the projects are, the progress on moving things ahead. I almost have to look at it like a major construction project. And maybe just my idea, form some kind of team outside the legislature. I don't know if it reports to the governor or if it's a joint responsibility between the legislature and the governor, but they can make sure that projects are on track. We've identified things. We've got a timeline in mind. Because there are some, substantial improvements to Alaska infrastructure that's possible here. But if we don't grab it and plan it, the opportunity is going to pass us by.
And I would agree, but I think as the senator pointed out, until we get the parameters from the feds as to how the money is going to be dispersed and what the provisions are in those disbursements, it's kind of hard to steer yourself down a course at this time.
Yep.
So if I may, I think what we need to do is get together with the administration and determine what a team like that looks like. If we do anything in a silo, the level of success is non-existent. If we are willing to do things together, which is why I never point fingers at the other groups, because we either succeed together or we fail together. And what we have not been particularly good at doing is, and I just got to be frank about it, we have got to spend a lot more time together as a team. That's something we've not done well.
Good. Well, thanks. I know that was kind of a question you might not have thought much about, but time is actually of the essence on this one. Yeah. Just to make sure we have enough time for the table discussions, I want to go ahead and give our speaker, our Representative Stutes and Senator Micciche here an opportunity to kind of wrap up their thoughts on this upcoming legislative session, 2 to 3 minutes, if you would, and then we'll get to the table discussions.
So we have an opportunity in the state to be remarkably successful by getting this fiscal plan problem. It's been heading this way for 20 years, but since 2014, we've been fumbling around with political differences that have made it impossible for any forward progress. This is the year for us to come together and try to knock out some of these obstacles. And without it, I'll tell you, I have a vision for this incredible state, and it is slipping by us and has been slipping by us for a long time. If we are going to become the state we were destined to become, this is the first major obstacle that needs to be moved out of the way. And it's going to take brave, dedicated, and compromising legislators working with an engaged administration this year in order for that to be a reality. So that's a call that I make to all the legislators out there. It's a call I make to all constituents when they deal with these legislatures. And it's something that I'm strongly asking of the administration, please, let's get together. Let's talk about some common ground. Let's figure out a way to iron where we don't have commonality, and let's move past this. Our current generation, future generations will continue to struggle if we can't move past it. We have been blessed with an amazing place. We have an incredible opportunity. We have great rocks. We have other resources that we've been in the business on for many years. Tourism, ecotourism, all of the things that we can offer in the state of Alaska are all suffering because folks are very hesitant to invest in our state. If you want to see that turn around, we've got to get our fiscal house in order. And it must happen this year. If not 100% of it, the lion's share that demonstrates to the rest of the world that we are ready, that we're open for business, and that we have moved beyond the stalemate that folks have been observing since at least 2014.
I agree with the good senator here. I think my vision is I'm hoping that we can put a lot of our partisanship aside and start working together for the good of all Alaskans. I think that's going to be critical in moving this state forward with anything we attempt to do. A fiscal plan, moving our businesses, keeping our businesses running, resource development. We have huge opportunities, but we've got to learn to work together for the good of Alaskans. And I think that once we crest that hill, the sky's the limit. I believe that everybody in the legislature wants the best for this state. There's no question in my mind. And I believe just about everybody in the legislature is looking towards a good, solid fiscal plan with a dependable PFD that we don't have to squabble over every year. But in order to get there, we're going to have to learn to work together first. And so that would be my vision for this coming year and my hope.
Well said. So thank you, Speaker Stutes and President Micciche, for your comments. And let's give them a round of applause, please. So at this point, we're going to do the tables. And for those of you who've been here before, you know what that means. So the legislature